Hello, my lace making friends. Well, today we start triangle number 13 and square number 4. So here we are. Happy New Year to those who've already done the New Year thing, and for those who have yet to come, such as myself, I currently have just under 6 hours to go. I will not be here at the New Year switchover because I'm hoping to be asleep by then. So I thought we could start on my next triangle because, well, that's just the thing now, isn't it? So we need some bobbins. Lots of bobbins. I spent ages winding bobbins, and remember a little while ago having run out of stuff on the first one. I went slightly overkill. Well, we're still on that overkill loading of bobbins in the... yeah. So... Oh, thank you, Miko. I have also made a dangerous decision in that I am... I've decided that I will switch to fat pins. And for those who are not quite sure what I mean by my fat pins, my previous pins were, and it's not desperately important, but it'll give you an idea, they were 0.35 millimeters wide. And basically what that actually entailed was that you said the word pin and the three of them ties themselves in a knot. They all ended up bent, and in pretty much for every square I've made, I've got through more than one pot of pins by bending them somehow. And I got a little fed up of that. And so, while normally in a project you would never change anything about it. If you're knitting, you don't change knitting needles. If you're crocheting, you don't change your brand of crochet hooks, because although they're the same, no, they're not. Because how you hold them's different, how you do that's different. There is a level of difference. Well, I've done a row now because I've got 3 squares, so that's saved the top row. I can do the second row and below with different pins, because I also know, because we did a test, because we're not stupid, that proves that once you've washed it, it doesn't show. So I have decided that now we're on, row number 2, that we will be using less crappy pins that bend constantly, and try and go a little for more that hopefully, well, do the pin thing and not the bend thing. Are you coming up, dog, or are you not coming up? Come on then. He's just got off one side to come back on up the small hole that is made between me and the couch and the cushion, and he'll go back to where he was like 2 seconds ago because he's an annoying bag of fur. But yes, that's but we are using fat pins now, and hopefully we will have far more success with the pinning of things. The other advantage to fat pins is come the end, when I need to try and poke things through them to secure them together, well, the hole will be easier to find because it's bigger. So it has a number of benefits. Most predominantly, these are really hard to bend in comparison. I mean, if I find you a bentish one, or an escaped one, because I've got plenty. Right, here's an escaped one. Right. Here is escaped skinny pin. Here is a fat pin. Now, let me zoom in so that you can see what the hell I'm talking about. Donk. Right. You probably can't see them that well, but even on camera, you can see that this pin is fatter than this pin. Watch how easy this pin bends. I am not trying very hard, and now it's a bent pin. This is a fat pin. If I apply the same pressure to the fat pin, well, it doesn't. So it's a lot more resistance to the bend. I mean, you can bend them. I mean, you know, they're not made out of tungsten steel and they're not like, you know, 12 inches wide. But, you know, it's not construction steel here. But we are talking that they resist, she says, realising something. Did I do 2 twists beforehand? I don't think I did. One thing I am trying to do is keep an eye on where the little knots are. Now, why do the knots matter? Well, because I joined things together, there are knots. Because, well, that's how you join 2 bits of thread together. But what I do want to do is make sure that the knots are nearer the pin end, so that all the, let's call them fudged bits, are together at the end. So you only have 1 row of fudginess, rather than many rows of fudginess. So we'll do a bit of that, and we'll move you over there, and we get another pair of bobbins. In case you're interested, I have a bobbin stand. Now my bobbin, I need to do that with it. I have a bobbin stand, and you won't be able to see it because you'd have to see it sideways. But my bobbin stand has, as you can see, let me zoom out a bit, you can see a bit more of it then. So it has all my bobbins dangling off it over little hooky things. And I spent the last day and a little bit tying them together and winding them up and doing all of those kind of things. So I did say that when I finished the last square, that there was a chance that yesterday would not be enough, and I'd probably done enough. I could have made a start, but like everything, you kind of want to have, if you're in the mood, you're in the mood, right? You kind of want to be ready for all of it. And how has this one got a funny knot on it? Because I made sure that I'd done the same knot on all of them. There we go. Let's try that. You're not going to be far too long, of course. The pains of these things. So, right, you now need to do this. Grab a pin. So now I'm using a different pin holder thing too, because, well, that's a thing. I put these pins in a different tub because they're bigger and fatter and take up a bit more room. Needs to come up here. There we go. Did I not do 2 twists again? The outer pair gets 2 twists. And like with all things in lace making, the keenest thing to do is make sure you're consistent. Doesn't matter what you actually pick to do, but do be consistent. And I've always done 2, so 2 it is. Right, another pair of bobbins. So the only problem at the beginning is obviously loading lots of bobbins up, and because you've not got any stitches behind them, they're not kind of locked in, if you know what I mean, in that, hence the knots can move. Once the knots have kind of locked in a bit, it kind of works out and it's fine. But until then, they tend to walk around a little bit and you have to kind of keep an eye on them. So, there we go. Yes, I can see today not being a long stream because already my back's going, really? Are we doing this again? Yes, back. Yes, we are. And you've had an easy day, so don't be acting like this is hard work. You've been sitting around and you haven't exactly, had to fight for your life. So can we just accept that it's, that this is going to happen? Do it being slightly longer. It does look funny when you've got the whole bare square, because of course for most of it we don't see a bare square. It's covered by cloth so that we don't stick our hands in it and get it tangled and all those kinds of things. So it's kind of weird when the square's this empty. It's like when if you've ever been to the swimming pool and you're the first person in and the pool's calm, and I mean dead calm, and you don't want to leap in because it looks really odd, because it looks so much more deep when the water is dead calm. When I was a kid, one summer we went swimming every day, and at the local kind of swimming pool, and we were always the first ones in because we would get there like 8:30, and by the time we got dressed we were the first people ready, because we'd come swim costumes underneath. All we had to do was rip our clothes off and kind of put them on the thing and run away. And well, the number of times you ran in, because the boys' end was the shallow end, the girls' end was the deep end, right? So you'd walk in and the 12'6" end was dead calm, and it looked like 40 metres deep in comparison. Once someone's jumped in and it's now ripply, it's not so bad because the ripples detract from how far down it is. I mean, you can see that there is a down, but it's not like a mirror. And yeah, generally we were all a bit cowards, and what would happen is one of the boys would come running in. So it used to be it started off as me and my friend Fiona, and then Fiona and I met up. Fiona's brother wanted to come along, so it was me, Fiona and David. Then we met up with a guy called Stephen, who was about me and Fiona's age, and he had a sister, I've forgotten her age. I need to point out this was the best part of nearly 37 years ago, maybe 38, and she had a name like Natasha, but I don't think it was Natasha. Anyway, so we met up with them. So obviously she came in with us, and David and Stephen went down the other end. So obviously David and Stephen would rush in and we'd be at the other end. So they'd run at us, and one of them would leap in because they were at the shallow end. And of course that then set the water, so it wasn't quite so bad. But if we got in before them, we'd be standing there looking at it going, I'm not leaping in that. That looks too deep. So, yeah, I remember that. I remember just before the holidays were about to end, two of our teachers were in one day, and it was a bit weird kind of seeing your teachers half naked. But it was, we'd been swimming all summer. We were fit as butcher's dogs. And we challenged them to a race and we won. It was quite funny, because they really thought that, A, they were adults, and B, that, being children, they'd win. No, we won. Sorry, Mr. Martin. Can't remember who the other one was. It Mr. Ward? I think it was Mr. Ward. Just remember one being my physics teacher. Yeah, those were good days. Oddly enough, there just don't seem to be many swimming pools. There aren't as many swimming pools around now, and swimming pools aren't like they used to be. So back then, you bought a ticket, and basically you bought access to the swimming complex, and it cost you the same if you went swimming for an hour or all day, because you just bought. It was like the original cinema. You bought a ticket to go in, and once you were in, you could stay or you could leave. Now, admittedly, back then the cinemas would have like, you know, 1 or 2 screens and show like 2 films. So if you walked in halfway through the first one, you could re-watch the first one later and actually watch the whole film and make sense of it. Because you could just walk in at any point and take a seat. And so sometimes you watch most of a film and you're only really there to watch, say, I don't know, Bambi, and you'd have no idea what the film you were watching was, but maybe you'd only miss like 5 minutes, so you'd watch most of a film, enjoy it, and have no idea what you just watched, because you weren't paying attention when you went in, or at least as a child you did. As an adult you probably wouldn't be quite so stupid, but as a child I was exceptionally good at that. We watched King Arthur and the Spaceman that way. I liked that film, and I've never forgotten the day for some reason my statistics teacher brought it in. So I was 16, 17 at this point because I was driving, and he brought it in to watch, and I went, oh good, King Arthur and Spaceman, I like this. And he looked at me with that kind of, what do you mean you've seen this? Because it was one of the, it's kind of a slightly obscure film that doesn't come out up very often, and it's kind of like, yeah, sorry mate, I saw it like 10 years ago. But it's a good film. King Arthur and the Spaceman. I haven't seen that, well, pretty much since my statistics teacher showed me it. Don't think I've seen it since then. I'll have to go see if I can dig it out. I bet people don't watch crap like that no more. So there are a lot of 80s kind of movies that fall into that category, though. That they were a bit crap, but they were harmless. So yeah, I kind of like that. So yes, slightly different pins. Gives a slightly different viewpoint for me, because of course these will mask my mistakes even better because they're fatter. Because they're considerably fatter, frankly. They're nearly 50% fatter than the previous pins. So, because as I was saying, the previous pins are 0.35 millimeters in diameter. These are 0.5 millimeter in diameter. So, it might actually be 55. I'd have to check. It might even be 60, but I don't think they're 60. You can buy pins of many fatnesses, and it's not a thing that you're overly aware of until... I mean, I bought some pins. I bought some other pins. And I did consciously... I vaguely remember consciously deciding to use the thinner pins when I started, so that the pin holes would be less obvious, forgetting, of course, that by the time you've washed it, it doesn't show. Anyway, having done that, and had the great dog debacle where they knocked my tins of pins over, because I hadn't put the lids on them yet, but I was doing something, and for some reason I had a tin of pins, and I was looking at some other pins, or I don't know, but anyway, there were 2 slices of pins open. And they both flung into the air and scattered liberally around my carpet, which is basically the same colour as my jumper, which is a stupid colour carpet, because every frigging mark for 1,000 miles, every bit of dirt, you know, in half of the United Kingdom seems to be on this carpet. And it doesn't really wash out either, which is kind of frustrating. But, all the pins dug in, and I got my magnet, picked them all up, piled them into a pot, went to do some streaming, and realised, because while I am I've never really given it a lot of thought, but like lots of things, you realise that your fingers are quite sensitive. And I picked up a pin and it didn't feel right. So I picked up a different pin. That one did feel right. Had a look. And they were, it's much easier to see in person, visibly fatter. I'd got 2 different sizes of pin in my pot. So I ended up quitting the stream for the day because I now had to sit down and play Fatsy Finsies to find out which pin went in which pot, and about 1,000 pins pop. So it was a lot of Fatsy Finsies, and I did it kind of a bit during the working day as well. You know, in a meeting, it's a bit like doodling on a pad. I was playing Fatsy Finsies because my fingers could tell the difference. So I didn't really have to be paying an awful lot of attention to the Fatsy Finsies. I just had to consciously go, this one's fat, so it goes to the left. This one's thin, so it goes to the right. And that was kind of it. But that's what I did for most of the day, and it really was most of the day. So, yeah, those thin pins have been relegated to the far corner of the room now so that they may not join in the shenanigans, because we do not like thin pins. We like our pins with some girth to it. Frankly, we just like pins that pin and not just bend because you've mentioned them, you know. Seriously, it really did feel like you go to take one out and you pick one up and it would be straight. You put it in and then you'd look at it later and it'd be bent, and you're like, how is that pin now bent? And the answer is because it was a pin, right? They just, and these I looked up because they're made by a certain company. I looked them up. The thin pins allegedly are bend resistant. God help the ones that aren't. If that's their idea of bend resistant, no. So I've decided that being a clumsy, heavy-handed oaf, fat pins are definitely much more up my alley. And rather interestingly, when we did the Bucks Point lace stuff, which of course is a considerably thinner thread and far more delicate a lace and all of those things, the pins you are supposed to use are these fat pins. So if it's good enough for that, it's good enough for this. And as I'm likely to be the only one ever seeing my neck curtain, I frankly, yeah. I choose fat pins because they make my life easier. So from now on out, for the other 12 frigging squares, no, it's more than 12, isn't it? It's more than 12. 15. Oh, God dear Lord. So for the other 15, including this one, squares, we are going to be using fat pins. I need to do something with my computer because something's about to go weird in me if I don't. Let's do that. Right. So it's nice to feel that you can actually, you know, manhandle things a little bit, and you don't have to, you know, breathe. You know, you can't breathe near it because things will go wrong. So this is a good thing. Oops. Can still manage to do that though, which is ping pins across the room. The only slightly annoying thing is that the bobbin holder's kind of in the way of where I have my pin pot. So what I can do, of course, is say hello to my pin pot. So here is my pot of pins, and here is the mother of all magnets. This thing, oh look, there's a pin. This thing is a huge magnet. I mean, let me show you. This is a pin. If I do this, it will suddenly leap at me, probably. Think. It is a great and glorious thing, and so I can put this in there. The pins are not actually attached to the bowl, so if I ever need to get them out of there, it's not difficult because I can just pick up the pot and now they're just loose pins in a pot. But while they're like this, they're encouraged to stay in the pot, which is a great and glorious thing. So this is where I'm at. So yes, fat pins. I know that the word fat is generally generally not approved of, but we're not talking of people here. We are talking of pins who have no opinion on the subject. So there is no one to offend because the fins are fat, much like my good self. So. We've got ads in a few minutes. Just to warn everybody. I don't know why, but for some reason, while Twitch notifies me there are going to be ads, the first round of ads, while I get a little green box on my screen, it doesn't trigger their API to say that there's ads coming. So it doesn't whisper in my ear that there's ads coming. And it also then can't trigger my little graphic to warn you that there are ads coming, because obviously ads are a great time to go take a pee, go and get another drink, let the dog out, you know, all of those kind of things. And so hence I try and warn you when ads are so that you can plan accordingly, because the last thing you really want to do is go and get a drink now, come back and sit there staring at three minutes worth of ads, because we all want to avoid the ads, because, well, we all want to avoid ads. I mean, let's face it, everyone goes and makes coffee and stuff during the advert break, so it's kind of like, you know, it's why TV ads always used to be louder during the break, because they knew you'd leave the room. They always swore they didn't, but it was truth, they were always louder. They got banned from doing it, but they still kind of do. They push it as far as they can go without being, you know, blatant about it anymore. Because the number of times you come back from the advert and you'd have to have turned up the TV now because you can't, because you'd turned it down during the advert. It was ridiculous. So. No, sit still, dog. I don't understand her. There are times I really don't understand that dog. I love my little girl just as much as I love my little man. But she has this incessant need to trample grass that isn't there. So she does the whole roundy thing, scraping at the couch. Don't you? Yes, you do. She says, giving me that, but not me, look. And she's also got a real fascination with a cushion I made of annoying the shit out of me with it by constantly chucking it on the floor. You hate my cushion, don't you? Let me have a look at your eye. Is your eye a bit sore? No, just a bit gunky that looked funny, that was all. Okay, that's fine. Hey, little one. You're a good girl, really. Yes, you are. You're just infinitely annoying because I've got two cushions on this couch. And they are for me. They are not there for the dogs. But never mind. look. The only problem with them being in the magnet is they do become slightly magnetised, so they can make little chains, which is quite, I find, kind of amusing. It is distracting and it's difficult sometimes to get up in as a result, but that was true of the thin ones as well. So. I don't know why my back's decided to hurt. Too long and you're being annoying. Come on. It's about the 5th time already she's climbed on the couch, trampled the cushions, moved them all, got off, come back on, trampled the cushions some more, flattened the grass, lay down, got up, started all over again. Dude, you'll live longer. Just sit down and chill. Wretched dog. Wretched dog. Trying to look at it. Let me turn it around this side so get a bit closer. That looks all small. That looks fine. By the way, if you can hear wind, that's because it's windy and it keeps opening my door. Because I have to have the door available to the outside world so that the dogs may go in the garden without constantly doing the I want to go out, I want to come in, I want to go out, I want to come in. They can let themselves in and out. And this is put on the downside. When it's super windy from the right direction, it also means the wind opens the door. Can't believe this will be the 3rd square we've made from the amount of thread I put on some of these bombs. I really did go a little overkill, didn't I? Never mind. Oh. As I said, it's all for me and it doesn't really matter, so... Before you ask why this is not central to the square, The answer is each time you finish, you should move it a little bit so that you don't keep putting the pins in the same hole and wearing out the cushion. So that's what I've done. I decided to put this one over here because while this is the most annoying bit for the first side, it will mean that come the last side, and it will be fairly annoying for the last side because it's quite near the bottom, but for these, for two of the sides, it will be as far away from the bottom as possible and really comfortable. So I need a pin. Thought that went too quick. One advantage of the fatter pins is it's very rare I pick up two without noticing, because they're just too fat for that. It's twisted twice. Just wanted to check. Lost strength over this bit. We start putting some of this in sticks. Suddenly had a quick, where are my sticks? But they're over there. That's okay. So yes, I haven't taken this pin out. There we go. I was very pleased with how the ending of the previous square went. I know it's sacrilegious to an awful lot of lace makers because I cut the bobbins off and then did the knotting. But it worked really well for me, and frankly that's the important bit because I'm the one making it. So, and if Naughty Celts was here, I'm sure he'd be proud of me for using better knots, or actually more to the point doing the knot that I thought I was doing in the first place, but I don't think I was. So, but it was harder to tell with the bobbins in the way. Oh, I know what's the problem with little man. Here you go, you can have an extra cushion. be way shorter than that. Right, time for some stick. Get a couple of sticks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I was just checking it was 5 and that it just looked a bit skimpy, but we don't need you or all of you immediately. We do need one of my pretty ones. Now don't hitch around yourself, you pain in the butt. No, I don't be doing that. There we go. You know what? Let's not. Ah! I've just realised something. Where are my stab holes? What do I mean by my stab holes? Well, you may recall, there they are. That was the starting line. Oh well, let's make some more stab holes before I forget them. Stab hole, stab hole, stab hole, stab hole, stab hole. But let's do all of them, just so that. No, well, you've already got stab holes, so I've already done this before. Stab hole, stab hole, stab hole, stab hole, stab hole. Right, now all 4 sides have got stab holes. The stab holes are where I've started the rose ground that did come out looking better on the last square during tie up and all of that. So with all of that in mind, we will be repeating that. They didn't get so squished and mangled in the sewing process. Again, in part because we were not applying the same amount of pressure and tension because we weren't messing with bobbins. We had individual threads to play with. which made it a bit easier. So I didn't end up pulling so hard on anything. So yeah, yesterday's, well, the day before's, because obviously I skipped yesterday, but you know, finishing off that last square went so much quicker, so much better for my sanity, so much better in general, you know. So yes, it was a very successful moment. I was talking to someone earlier, and they were saying, "Oh, I'm not overly good and efficient at something." It's not the point of crafting because you want to. It's not because you're good at it. It's not because you're fast and efficient at it. It's because you want to do it. And you know, like I keep telling you, I am no expert at this. But I'm doing it because I wanna. So I am, and that's pretty much it. It's to enjoy something, you don't have to be good at it. To enjoy something, you do not have to be fast at it. To enjoy something, you just have to enjoy doing it, whether it's fast, slow, or otherwise. Now, obviously, you're probably not going to enjoy Formula 1 racing if you drive around at 21 mile an hour, because, well, frankly, A, the race will be over before you get to the end of the first lap. But secondly, you know, it is... Okay, you might get 7 laps in, woo. But it becomes that kind of problem. You're never going to enjoy it as much because while you get to drive around the track and you get to have a bit of fun, you're not really embracing the point of the day kind of thing, right? And so with that in mind, you do kind of have to... there has to be an element of appropriateness for what you're doing. Now, obviously, with lace making, speed is not essential. Anything but essential, to be honest. I mean, obviously, the faster you do it, the quicker you get to do something else. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that I think is a benefit. Because obviously, you know, if in 3 weeks' time you're only a quarter of the way through this, you probably wouldn't enjoy it as much because you haven't really got much to show for it, and it would feel like a hard slog. But at the same time, if you're happy with your progress, you know, you don't... I mean, if you think of me and my cross-stitch thing, my cross-stitch thing is growing incredibly slowly. Now, there are some days where I do a chunk of it. There are days when I don't do chunks of it. But I'm not mad at it because I'm doing it kind of, you know, while videos upload and I'm not watching this or I'm not doing that. It really is I won't call it the last resort, but it is kind of I haven't got anything else to do. Hey, why not do some of that, you know? And it is kind of verging on the last resort, but it's not a last resort. It's just a case of if I'm watching a streamer, then I don't tend to stream and do cross stitch for some reason because I can't have them on screen and the cross stitch program, I suppose. My phone says ping. Why does my phone says ping? Okay, what? Oops, just jogged that. Don't need to be doing that. There we go. So, yeah, you don't have to be fast or good, you just have to enjoy it. And generally to enjoy it, you need to make something reasonable by the end of it. But sometimes you don't, you laugh at it and you still enjoy it. And to be honest, that's still good. You can, I mean, I've said to you before, I am not exactly a lace using person, but I enjoy making it. But once it's made, kind of, well, what do I do now? You know, make something else is the short answer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But my ability to make will far exceed my ability to use by 1,000,000,000%, because I don't really need any of it. The other advantage of the fat pins is that they will withstand some of the stresses of, you know, tightening the cloth stitch and stuff without bending, because that's definitely a problem. So from that point of view, again, another win, you know. Did I add one? I don't think I did. No, I didn't. are you being so awkward? Didn't want me to pick up the loop bit so that I could adjust my bobbin. I need to do a typey thing. Yep. Let's put this back in here. Okay. Do I really want to do the rose ground bit? Not really, is the short answer. But the answer also is, yeah, that's what's next. I've got yawns now. Just getting to my box of sticks and things to reach in for a pin pusher. So we can problem is I can't see round corners as to whether that's all of them or not. It does look like I might have done. There we go. See, to me already that cloth stitch looks far more even just because it can't bend the pins. Bizarre, isn't it? It should all follow the same path and do all the same stuff, but it doesn't look like it. I'm deciding, my friends, whether I want to bow out with some dignity, or, because bear in mind my back is playing up, or try and do this square. And I know it's only about an hour or so, but I do feel dignity may win. I know we haven't really done a lot, but it is also New Year's Eve. feel a need to not be sociable, because, well, that never happens, but feel a need to be joining in the rest of the world celebration. I know I've got 5 hours to go, but I'm clearly going to need a nap if I'm going to be awake at midnight at this rate. So, what do I do? I don't like stopping in the middle. That's the problem. Is there's no reason why I could do, say, 2 rows of rows round and go, actually, yeah, that's enough. But I don't. I always feel like I should be at the end of a chunk. Because it's a bit like knitting. In knitting, you try to avoid stopping in certain places because your tension might change when you come back. And it can be an issue if you're not a very consistent knitter, which is very easy not to be. So if you're in a mood, your knitting's usually tighter or looser, depending on how your mood works out, to be honest. But it also means that, you know, on one day, you know, for a few days your knitting's, say, reasonably tight, and then the next few days it's considerably looser, or the other way around, and that can show and spoil something. Lace making doesn't really suffer with that because it's based around where the pins are. So there's no reason not to stop. You know, I could stop literally at any point and come back to it. But I think, like everything in your head, as I say, of course I've now got the yawns, but like I said, there is this bit of you that kind of likes to finish at the end of something. So I'm going to bow out with some grace. I'm going to watch some telly and films. I really fancy watching a film. No idea what film, but I fancy watching a film. Preferably something with aliens and something, I think. But there aren't that many good alien type films other than Aliens and Alien and Alien 2, 3, 4, 5, 26, but not Prometheus, because that was poo. That was a terrible film. My ex-husband sums that up beautifully. So we've travelled for many years in space. We finally got to our destination. We're now going to park an hour's drive away from the only thing that we're remotely interested in on the planet. Why not just park next to it? You know, I mean, obviously there's next to it and next to it, but really, you know, you park kind of like, you know, a county over. I mean, why? There was like a time zone between you. Why would you do that? And so, of course, then, you know, and like when one of them gets made contagious and it's, let him in, it'll be okay, for I love him. No, he's infested with aliens. I'll give over. And, of course, eventually it kills them all off, so hallelujah. But, there is a little bit, oh, you're really interesting. Oh, you want to say hello? Oh, you've killed me. Well, that's a bit awkward, isn't it? And then as for Prometheus 2, can't remember what that one's called. Prometheus 2 is even worse. So the robot David turns up and meets a former incarnation of the robot David, and you can just tell he's going to kill him off and take over as the other David. I mean, seriously. He might as well have worn it as a t-shirt. Anyway, let's put this away. And try and come back like a good girl for the new year tomorrow. And dose up on some painkillers or something and make a really good bash at it. Because it is really disappointing for me when my back, it literally almost, by the time I'd done 2 pins, was going, oh, I really don't want to do this. Well, that's really helpful, but I do, you know? So... And of course, now I'm looking more at the computer, not at this to my side, so I'm facing that way. It's happier now, but I can't put the pillow at that angle and sit at it. because, well, there's a dog in the way, and he likes that spot. Whether I like him to have that spot or not, he likes that spot. So, I wish you all merry celebrations, and a happy new year. Let 2025 suck a lot less than 2024 did. For most of us, 2024 was not the greatest year of all time. So, may 2025 do a better effort. We would like that. We would appreciate that all round. For those of you who have to work today, tomorrow, my commiserations entirely. But I definitely will be back tomorrow. So forgive me for leaving you at this time. Just going to see if there's anyone to raid, and the answer is not that I'm aware of. So yes, thank you for coming. Sorry it's been a short one, but tomorrow we start 2025 and we will try harder. We'll take a few more painkillers to help us, but I do wish you every good luck for the new year, and I shall see you next year. Sounds so far away. Bye.